Welcome to r/MaliciousCompliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter but not the spirit of a request. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. The first story. Kindergarten owner makes me obey her stupid rules. I refuse. Her garden closes in a couple of months. The second story. Company made me use trash software to troubleshoot issues. Followed their software instead of critically thinking and was yelled at for being too literal and quit. On to the first story. I can't have somewhere to sit quietly. Guess I'll get in trouble so I can sit in timeout quietly. When I was a kid, must have been younger than 7, I went to a daycare center every day and was at the time still undiagnosed with my soon-to-be discovered Asperger's syndrome. At the time in my town, the knowledge of autism was pretty much completely non-existent. Even more so for introversion versus extroversion. There was no quiet spaces, or any of that great SH we have now available anywhere then. As a kid with Asperger's, I hyperfixated on electronics. If I couldn't have some sort of digital screen to play with, I'd prefer literally nothing. Video games and computer games were the only things that made remote sense to me. Everything else in the world just felt overcomplicated and confusing, especially socializing. But computers and games had scripts I could find the patterns in and predict, which brought me comfort. The daycare was run by a woman we'll call Susan. Not sure what her name actually was. In her small one-story, one-bedroom home. In the very back of the house was a tiny room with a computer in it. Everyone loved that computer. It had actual games on it. I mean, it was point-and-click storybooks starring Arthur the Anteater, but it was still video games. Think how rare finding computer games was in the early 2000s. Nothing like today where everyone has Candy Crush on their phones. Of course, I did absolutely everything in my power to constantly be around that comp. Kids were even kinda tolerable if we were playing games together as a common interest. I feel like maybe Susan realized that she shouldn't have unleashed this great power of entertainment onto this horde, because suddenly she started politely swaying us out of the room for every few minutes in coming weeks. Still, she wasn't closing and locking the door, so those 10 minutes before she came over and asked you to stop playing was still pure bliss, and I'd get every second of it I could. The computer wasn't technically off limits, just wasn't something you should be doing. She wanted you to do other things and broaden your horizons. But seriously, my only options was playing with other kids or watching slow-paced, fluffy baby cartoons that bored and confused the hell out of me. I tried other things and learned quickly that I preferred the computer. I was honest about this. On my first full day of being there without my mom accompanying me, she was a pretty protective mom and I was a total mama's boy. I did the normal schedule. I'd play the computer or watch other kids play, take a short break patiently doing the stuff I didn't like, then play or watch kids play the computer again. I was worried about being without my mom for the first time in literally my whole life, but it wasn't bad at all. I actually felt close to the other kids and started making friends like this, when I normally hated being around other kids. Then it was lunchtime. As a side note, every day I went to daycare I asked Susan if I could eat alone, preferably be maybe in front of the computer, but anywhere else would be nice. I felt anxiety being so close to a huge group of kids at a dinner table. I think Susan just thought I was selfish asking for special exception. I legit didn't understand why getting what I asked for would be any sort of problem for her, though. I think I actually asked her if I could go into timeout nearly every time I was forced in a situation where I couldn't use the computer. Because when I saw that kids who got into timeout got to be isolated from other kids and sat in a quiet spot, I was like, I want that. But I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't purposely break rules to get what I wanted, even if I really wanted it. I had morality and a strong sense of it. Back to the first day without mom. After I finished eating, I got up to resume doing the same routine of playing on the computer. Susan forced me to sit back down. She says, "You have to say, 'May I be excused?'" I was genuinely really confused. Not only have I never heard the phrase before, just the wording itself, "may I," was super alien to me. I had no idea what it or even the word excused meant. Literally never heard any of it before, not even on TV. I explained to her that my family doesn't have this rule and I don't understand it. She says I'm not allowed to leave until I say it. I think this really rubbed me the wrong way because I just didn't understand how someone could get so fixated on something so stupid. If she didn't want me to leave yet, she could just say so. If she was fine with me leaving, she could just let me go. Why was saying these magical nonsense words necessary? It's not like the world will fall apart if I ignore her rule, so I sat there and didn't say it. Eventually all the kids finished eating and get up from the table, which is kind of a relief, because at least I'm mostly alone now and I can kind of relax. She finally lets me get up after an hour so she can put away the kids' table. This same thing happens for several more days every single lunch. Eventually, I think my mom finally explained to me Susan's point of view and egged me on to just say, "May I be excused," so I didn't have to deal with it. Next day, lunch happens. I finish and I say, "May I be excused?" Susan says yes. I go to play games. Recess starts. She tells me to go outside. I don't get it. If it's the fun free time part of the day, can't I just do what I want? I argue with her. I get put in timeout and miss outdoor recess. Still better than actually going outside though. Next day I finally go outside. I sit on the porch. I ask her, can I at least sit inside and do nothing? Legit, I basically asked to be put in timeout again because I just hated being around the other rowdy kids so much. I'm a prime example of an introvert. She says no. So I sit on the porch and watch in silence. Eventually she gets irritated. I don't know why. I have no effing idea why. But she tells me I'm not allowed to sit on the porch with her and her husband, even if I'm being perfectly quiet. Even if I'm technically outside, I have to go into the front yard and playground with all the rowdy kids. Porch is now off limits. It's just effing wood. I stand in the middle of the yard. I literally just stand there doing nothing. She yells at me to go play do something. Even though many details of this story are slightly foggy over the years, this detail I remember vividly, literally being forced to do this. I climb up the small plastic steps of the slide and do what everyone knows you're supposed to do. I wait for the person in front of me to get to the bottom of the slide and stand up and leave. I do this several times. I watch before I go. Slide down, stand up, leave. My turn. Slide down, stand up, leave. My turn. It's actually kind of fun, though I'm still miserable being around these dumb loud kids around me. Slide down, stand up, leave. My turn. Slide down, stand up. The girl, we'll call her B, staggers a little bit and sits back down in the slide after almost standing up already. But it's too late, I'm already sliding down. I got the rhythm wrong and an unknown variable happened. I lightly kick B in the back and she falls forward, but she's completely alright. She's an acquaintance of mine, and even though I definitely didn't consider her my friend, B is really nice about it. I ask if she's alright and she says she's fine. Susan comes running up and demands I apologize to B. I say I won't because there was no harm done, and therefore no need to apologize. B says she doesn't need an apology and agrees with my logic. It was just a fluke that this happened. But Susan's peeved. We must have argued back and forth. Susan saying say you're sorry and me saying back I don't want to. Legit just another one of those social rule things I didn't get. My family only said sorry when they really wanted someone to feel better, but since B already felt fine, I didn't feel it was necessary, just like the whole may I be excused thing. Finally, the grand finale. Susan puts me in timeout inside the empty house immediately, right in the middle of recess. Literally what I asked for like 5 minutes prior. She then keeps me in timeout for the entire rest of the day. She's waiting for me to apologize to B. No effing joke. I confirmed this with my mom. 6 entire hours straight in timeout. I remember it was boring, but it was still better than being forced to play or be in close contact with everyone else. My second favorite thing to do at daycare next to playing games was literally just being left alone and doing nothing. Apparently near the end of the day, Susan calls up my mom crying. Like actually sobbing from stress because she just doesn't understand what to do with me, because I refuse to say I'm sorry. Every time she asks me if I'm ready to say sorry yet, I just say nope cheerfully. Susan actually pleads my mom to get out of work early to pick me up. No joke. Susan says she actually just can't deal with me. Luckily, my mom had enough sense after that phone call and the constant complaints I had of the place to let me stop going there. My mom later got the whole story without me, talked to B and her parents, asked other kids and parents about it, and explained to Susan that we don't throw around apologies willy-nilly in our house, so that they lose their meaning. It seemed like other kids genuinely understood this and didn't understand why I got in trouble. A few months later, I think Susan actually closed the daycare for good and retired from the business. And my mom opened her own daycare a block away to replace it. I'm a fully fledged adult now, and I think back to this absolutely brutal mind breaking of this lady with pride and my bad A stubbornness for what I believed in. But I do feel bad for her. And I do know I was an entitled kid back then that thought I deserved explanations for everything I didn't understand. However, I do accredit this event in my life as a possible great source of why I obsessively say sorry all the time now, and worry endlessly about how other people perceive me to the point of anxiety and depression. Constantly self-sacrificing just to satisfy some meaningless polite BS for total strangers. Susan still got her message through to me even if I didn't agree with it. I wondered if I'd suffered from the same psychological problems I would today, if I got a daycare provider who is more patient in trying to understand my problems and what I needed. My love goes out to other autistic kids and adults out there struggling with not only understanding the illogical BS other people get attached to and force you to deal with, but also trying to be yourself and stand up for what you believe in, now after you've become a beaten down adult. F. Susan. The next story is, we've spent millions on this software. Use it. I'm sure a lot of us had call center experience and the gripes that come with it, so I hope you guys get a chuckle from mine. I work at a telecommunication customer service a few years back, and it was my first non-fast food job, so I was pretty stoked, and to be honest, the work environment was sweet. I was doing customer support for one of the big packages in the Midwest, cable, internet, VoIP phones package. We had to take a technical test upon interviewing, and if you managed to score high enough, they would allow you to move straight into their small business support team instead of starting in residential. I was in school for network systems administration at the time, and I murdered that test. They called me within an hour of leaving and offered me the job working for their small business support. The truly great part about doing small business support instead of residential was we had a plethora of extra tools and didn't have to follow the workflow their intuitive troubleshooting program would suggest for us to do for issues, which usually led to much faster results and happier customers, as we were able to really show off just how far we were willing to go to resolve their issues, instead of just reading the screen word for word. A few months pass and our call center starts losing some of their calls to overseas centers. As to why, your guess is as good as mine, but it led to the center deciding we would be moving all small business calls to a center in Texas, and everyone at our center would be forced to go residential, but we would keep our same pay. So I wasn't terribly upset over it at the time. They told us, however, about a weekend they implemented their worst policy change. We want all of our reps to follow the intuitive troubleshooting program word for word, based on the issue your customer is having. Now, I wasn't super upset until I realized how dumb this software really was. You would select someone has no internet, and it would ask you to have them try to browse to a website. You could put that modem had no lights and they would still suggest the same three things regardless. Try to browse, try to reboot, press the reset pin. On what would be my last day, I get called in for helping a customer log into their modem to reset their Wi-Fi password, when my workflow advised me to reboot. I explained my reasoning and had them finish the call to verify the customer was stoked, but they didn't care because I was wasting the millions they spent on this stupid software that I can only guess was coded by someone who had never used the products in their life. So from then on, I did just as the workflow advised. I rebooted, peeved people off, and ignored their concerns to continue with the workflow regardless of how dumb the next action item it wanted me to take was. Cable box has no lights on it. No problem, I'll ship you a new remote because that's what my software says to do. Oh, you need a Wi-Fi password and isn't on the back of your modem? Guess I'll send you a $100 technician to replace it. This led to my boss pulling me back in the next day to say that I was taking everything too literally and needed to decide to either conform or quit. I handed him my badge and left without a word. They called for the next 2 weeks on and off as half the centers started hitting the same frustrations and issues. About 3 months later, they shut down. Edit. Especially frustrating with things like helping a customer assign static IPs that they purchased through us, or connecting different devices like smart TVs to their Wi-Fi, which there was no flow for other than tell the customer where to locate their Wi-Fi password on the back of their modem and connect to the device. I don't miss it. Subscribe, click the like button if you want to support the channel. Thank you for watching.